Hello, how are you? In this current time we're living in, with so much information about weight loss pens like Ozempic, Mounjaro, Wegovy, Saxenda, a lot of people ask me, Patricia, is there a food that has benefits for weight loss to help control blood sugar, but it is simple, cheap, and accessible for us to add to our daily routine? Today I'm going to talk to you about a compound that has been widely studied, but is often underused or consumed incorrectly. I'm going to tell you about all its benefits for our health and for weight loss. In fact, the third benefit will really help with that issue of binge eating that many people report. I'll also tell you about the mistakes and precautions you need to take. There are 3 dangerous mistakes. You won't want to miss this. Before we start, I want to ask you if you're in the process of losing weight, and if you could, how many pounds would you like to lose? Write it for me down here in the comments. When we think about the benefits of these weight loss pens, more and more people who use them are reporting how much easier it is to lose weight. That's because they act directly on the feeling of early satiety, on maintaining that satiety for longer, and even reducing the urge to eat, food cravings. On top of all that, they also have a strong effect on metabolism, right? Especially regarding insulin sensitivity, and they improve several markers, including those related to triglycerides, cholesterol, blood sugar control. So let's think about a food that actually has these scientifically proven benefits, even if through different mechanisms. So the food you can use, and in a very practical way in your daily life, is apple cider vinegar. I'm going to explain to you exactly what the best time is, because there's a little trick to it, but we already know. Scientific studies have been showing that apple cider vinegar has a dampening effect on the postprandial glycemic spike. In other words, it can help control that excess sugar that enters the bloodstream after you eat a meal rich in carbohydrates. When you eat rice, bread, pasta, noodles, sweets, obviously, right, a massive surge of glucose is released into your bloodstream, and this forces our pancreas to secrete an excessive amount of insulin to control this damage, right? And the acetic acid, which is present in apple cider vinegar, helps partially inhibit digestive enzymes like alpha amylase and alpha glucosidase. This drastically slows down the breakdown of starch. So the food reaches the intestine more gradually, causing glucose to be absorbed in a more linear way, thus sparing our pancreas. We know that many people who use Mounjaro and Ozempic report an improvement in blood sugar control, so that's a benefit they help with. These benefits are obviously shared, though with different impacts. The second benefit is still related to this issue of blood sugar control, specifically regarding the optimization of insulin sensitivity. We know that insulin resistance often causes the accumulation of abdominal fat, blocks fat burning. Excess insulin, which is a powerful anabolic hormone, will effectively block catabolism, meaning it actively prevents you from actually burning away body fat. So if you are trying to lose weight and your insulin is high, it ends up hindering your weight loss process even if you are doing everything right. And the acetic acid in apple cider vinegar improves the response of the cell's insulin receptors, especially in the muscles, which is very interesting. It stimulates the translocation of GLUT4 receptors to the surface of the cell membrane. So the cells absorb sugar from the blood more easily, reducing the need to keep insulin chronically high, which benefits the overall weight loss process. There are people who really crave sweets. They say things like, I can control myself at lunch and dinner, but at that time when I want something sweet, it's almost a compulsion. It's practically impossible. And this persistent craving to eat a lot of sweets, to snack on sugary treats, especially even right after a full meal, actually isn't merely a lack of willpower. It can actually be a neurochemical problem. A very high glucose spike from your previous meal is usually followed by an abrupt drop in glucose due to the excess insulin I explained to you earlier. Consequently, the brain may interpret this sudden decline as an immediate deficiency of vital energy and subsequently initiate an intense craving for sugar as a fundamental survival mechanism. So, when we also manage to regularly consume apple cider vinegar, it can actually help stabilize dopamine, because when we flatten that blood sugar curve, that sharp fluctuation, the vinegar will prevent these continuous swings, so the brain's reward centers remain much more stable, effectively turning off that constant craving for sweets throughout the day. In the very same way that many people who take Ozempic Mounjaro report a similar reduction, through other mechanisms, of course. One of the coolest benefits of consuming apple cider vinegar is the prolonged gastric signaling it can provide, because it slows down the rate of gastric emptying and the mechanoreceptors in the stomach wall remain stretched, signaling to the brain that your stomach is full for a longer period of time. And we already know quite a bit about this gut-brain axis, right? That the slow and steady arrival of nutrients in the intestine actually helps stimulate a sustained release of key gut hormones directly related to satiety itself. So this specific physiological phenomenon of having a more distended stomach, along with a significantly more prolonged sensation of dietary satiety, is also positively influenced and supported by the consumption of apple cider vinegar. Many people also like to consume apple cider vinegar because of its benefits for the hormonal environment in reducing visceral fat. Apple cider vinegar obviously is not going to magically melt belly fat, right? But it creates a very interesting hormonal environment for lipolysis to occur because as it lowers insulin, as I mentioned to you, which is an anabolic hormone and highly blocks fat burning, the body regains its ability to access and oxidize the fat that was stored, especially subcutaneous and visceral fat. So it's actually a really great option if you were looking to reduce, this whole issue of excessive insulin activity in your body. Actually, not excessive functioning, but excessive secretion, and to improve this metabolic issue related to carbohydrate metabolism. There's also another beneficial aspect associated with consuming apple cider vinegar, which is what we call downregulation. That is, a decrease in the regulation of hepatic production of triglycerides. We know that there is a real danger in having excess triglycerides in our bodies. High levels in the blood are critical markers of cardiovascular risk and heart attack. This is already a scientific fact. And acetic acid enters the liver and activates the AMPK enzyme, which is a cellular energy sensor, to put it more simply. And the activation of AMPK reduces the factors that produce internal fat, decreasing the synthesis of fatty acids and the production of VLDL particles, which can help with the triglyceride issue for many people. So, as a complementary measure, apple cider vinegar can help you reduce liver fat. We also know that liver fat is often initiated or fueled by insulin resistance and by the liver's own internal fat production process. So when we improve insulin action in the body, vinegar reduces the amount of free fat that leaves the adipose tissue and would otherwise end up in the liver. So it's very interesting. There's also a really great benefit if you use organic apple cider vinegar. I'll explain more about this, which is that high quality vinegar is not processed, not pasteurized, and not filtered. So it retains what we call the mother of vinegar, which is like the matrix of the vinegar. This is a complex biofilm of acetic bacteria and symbiotic yeasts, which are very helpful due to their prebiotic action. So this even helps to nourish the colon because these polyphenols are resistant to the stomach and reach the colon, where they serve as food for beneficial bacteria, strengthening the intestinal barrier, reducing intestinal permeability, and decreasing intestinal inflammation, which is a huge benefit for our health as well. Before we continue, if you're enjoying the video, go ahead and leave your like. This really helps me out here on the channel. And if you know someone who you think would like this, who needs this information, share it with your friend or family member. Let's expand our chain of kindness. So if you're interested in consuming apple cider vinegar but are unsure what's the best time to take it or how much to consume, studies clearly show that the right time is usually 10 to 20 minutes right before your main meals, especially when you're going to eat more carbohydrates. Some people take it only at lunch, some only at dinner, and some, after getting used to it, can even take it at both lunch and dinner. The maximum protective effect is always related to the next meal, right? To the fact that after consuming the vinegar, the following meal has a significant carbohydrate load. So if you're someone who already eats few carbohydrates in that meal, it's not really worth using apple cider vinegar at that time. Regarding the amount, ideally, we should always try to dilute the apple cider vinegar. Never consume it undiluted. When we consume it undiluted, it can be very acidic for the mouth, for the teeth, for the tooth enamel, for the esophagus, and even for the stomach, which is already an acidic environment. So, if you choose to consume it in liquid form, that is, to drink apple cider vinegar, you definitely need to dilute it in water. You can start gradually, beginning with 1 teaspoon for 1 cup of water and increasing up to a maximum of 1 tablespoon for 1 cup of water to maintain this safe amount for you. If you are someone who has a lot of sensitivity or problems with tooth enamel, remember to drink with a straw so it doesn't come into too much contact with your teeth, and rinse your mouth with plain water afterwards without brushing your teeth so you don't make the enamel even more sensitive. Of course, when we think about all these benefits of apple cider vinegar, we obviously can't directly compare it with these very modern, expensive, specialized medications. That would end up being biologically disproportionate, right? Especially because medications like Mounjaro and Ozempic mimic the GLP-1 and GIP hormones at very high supraphysiological levels, and they alter the hypothalamus with a pharmacological effect that simply can't be compared to apple cider vinegar. The point is that the acetic acid in apple cider vinegar acts on parallel pathways with a more subtle, more modest magnitude, but even so, it has clear and scientifically proven beneficial effects. It doesn't have significant gastrointestinal side effects, which many people report, and obviously it's completely accessible to anyone, right? Because it's very inexpensive. So it's worth trying it out in your daily routine if you don't have any contraindications. Like everything in life, of course, apple cider vinegar can have contraindications for some people, right? If you have severe erosive gastritis, active peptic ulcer, or severe gastroesophageal reflux, you might want to avoid consuming it due to the risk of worsening those lesions because of the excessively acidic pH of apple cider vinegar. In any case, if you have any kind of illness, are taking any medication, are unsure whether you should consume apple cider vinegar, are pregnant, breastfeeding, or going through a special moment in your life, talk to your doctor or your nutritionist first. Remember that this video is for informational purposes only. Also remember that none of these strategies will replace a balanced diet, physical exercise, a healthy lifestyle, or follow up with a healthcare professional who knows you personally in your city. If this content here was interesting to you, if it opened your eyes, if it showed you, that's cool, there's a food I have at home that can actually help me lose weight and better control my blood sugar as a compliment, share this video with your friends and family. Like the video because that's really important to me. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, okay? I have a new video every day and you won't want to miss it. See you next time. Bye.